As the Maricopa County audit heats up, we now have a state senator calling for a new election. In this video, we're going to take a look at the senator's call. We're going to see how public opinion polls are moving solidly in favor of national election reform. And stick with me to the very end of the video, where I'll reveal why what's happening in Arizona is just the beginning. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, we are your daily fake news antidote. As each and every day, we provide patriotic analysis to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we begin here, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video. You're going to love this one. It's called the Light Bug. The Light Bug is a portable solar-powered, ultra-bright floodlight that makes blackouts a thing of the past. It's solar-powered, so it never needs batteries, and it's perfect to light up your fishing, hiking, or camping trips because it's so lightweight and portable. And if you click on that link below right now, you're going to get 20% off your order. So don't wait. Make sure to click on that link below or head on over to lightbug.com and get your emergency backup light today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. As the Maricopa County audit continues, Republicans in Arizona are increasingly becoming emboldened in their challenging of the November results. The latest example is coming from State Senator Wendy Rogers. Newsweek is reporting that she's openly calling for a new 2020 presidential election in her state, demanding that officials decertify the election that took place in November. After the Arizona Senate hearings last week, Rogers tweeted out, "I've heard enough. With the tens of thousands of ballots mailed without being requested, the over 10,000 people who voted after registering after November 3rd, the failure of Maricopa to turn over the 40% machines, the passwords that Dominion still refuses to turn over, and tens of thousands of unauthorized queries demonstrating how insecure the election was, I call for the Biden electors to be recalled to Arizona and a new election must be conducted. Arizona's electors must not be awarded fraudulently, and we need to get this right." Now, you can learn more about what Senator Rogers is talking about here by clicking on the link to my video on the media beginning to panic over the Arizona audit. You're going to absolutely love it. But what she's referring to, of course, is some of the findings that were made public during the Arizona Senate hearings last week on the audit. So according to the testimony given by the auditors, over 74,000 mail-in ballots had no clear record of them ever having been sent out. Nearly 170,000 ballots were incorrectly printed, and approximately 11,000 voters were added after the election. And these reportings are causing the media, frankly, to go into overtime, drafting intended refutations to the findings presented at the Senate hearing from the auditors. Refutations, according to the auditors over at Cyber Ninjas, wouldn't even be necessary if the county simply handed over what had been subpoenaed in the first place. And so we now have an Arizona Senator, Wendy Rogers, coming out and demanding a recall of the Arizona's electors in a new election in the Grand Canyon state. Now, the Senate President, Karen Fann, who chaired the audit hearing last week, she responded to Senator Rogers by saying that the Arizona Senate simply does not have the authority to recall electors. And while she did absolutely affirm that the Senate has the power, particularly the subpoena power, to provide the auditors with all the materials and information that they need to conduct a full forensic audit, the question of decertifying the election simply couldn't be resolved in the Senate. It would have to be left up to others, perhaps the courts. But in the meantime, the larger call to restore election integrity is clearly resonating with voters. The latest Rasmussen poll shows overwhelming support for election integrity bills. According to the survey, 61% of likely voters agree with a statement that Trump issued last week on his website. Quote, "Election reform must happen in swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona, where voters have lost confidence in their electoral process." Now, that includes 42% who strongly agrees with that statement. And these findings corroborate what Rasmussen found back in March. 75% of likely voters support voter identification requirements. Or as I like to put it, 75% of likely voters support what Democrats oppose, okay? Most people support what Democrats oppose. And by the way, that number includes 69% of black voters. 69% of black voters and 75% of voters overall support precisely the kind of voter ID requirements that Democrats are doing everything they possibly can to oppose. So Rasmussen is arguing that the likely voters are clearly being persuaded by Trump's argument over election integrity. Thus far, a total of 361 election integrity bills have been introduced in 40 different states. And as we talked about in yesterday's video, frankly, the media is starting to panic over all this. And they're starting to panic because they're realizing that they've lost the narrative. They're not losing it. They've lost the narrative. And the media is nothing without narrative. Remember, as the saying goes, the mainstream media doesn't report news. They report narrative. And their narrative is that this audit is a total and complete sham. It's dishonest. It's conspiratorial. And yet, over 60% of likely voters are sympathetic to its aims, which ultimately is the restoration of election integrity. So the media really doesn't quite know what to do here, other than just keep banging their head against the wall, disparaging, ridiculing, excoriating the efforts in Maricopa County. But, and here's our big reveal on what's really going on here with these audit efforts in Arizona, we can also see that portions of the media are beginning to turn around. They're beginning to see the mass support that's solidified across the country for election integrity efforts, and they're beginning now to offer sympathetic coverage of just such efforts, which again is a tacit admission that the mainstream media's narrative overall has collapsed on this. And I can think of no better example of this turnaround than Tucker Carlson of Fox News and his recent investigation into the election proceedings in Fulton County, Georgia. Now, I'm sure you all know that Fulton County is currently the subject of an impending forensic audit comparable to what's happening in Maricopa County in Arizona. Again, it's being widely dismissed and ridiculed by the media, but now we're seeing Fox News, by way of Tucker Carlson, as well as Sean Hannity, begin to take the concerns coming out of Fulton County quite seriously. Carlson reported on an incident in late May where a burglar alarm was triggered in what he called a nondescript warehouse in Fulton County. By the time law enforcement arrived, someone had managed to open the 100-pound door to the warehouse. A warehouse that happened to store over 140,000 absentee ballots. Absentee ballots that county officials, for whatever reason, refused to allow anyone to see or examine. Bob Cheeley, an Atlanta-based lawyer, is suing to get access to those ballots, and the lawsuit recently got a victory in a judge's decision to allow audit inquiries to proceed. But for me, the real victory in all this is precisely what we saw coming from Tucker Carlson. To this day, we don't know what happened that night of the break-in. We don't know anything about those 140,000 absentee ballots. And instead of the usual dismissiveness of the nothing to see here media, we're now starting to get major media reporting on these stories, which marks a major shift in the mainstream media's narrative. As we all know, Fox News has been very much in line with the broader mainstream media rejection and ridicule of the audits thus far. But Tucker's latest report signals a major turnaround in this tendency. And do you think that's a coincidence? Isn't it interesting that that turnaround just happens to coincide with the latest polls that show massive support for election integrity efforts in these audits, as well as the flood of legislation to strengthen voter integrity that's going on right now throughout the nation? It really does appear that the tide is turning on this, which means that Maricopa County may indeed be just the beginning. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on the Texas Democrats who fled their state in the hopes of being seen as these grand heroes have become nothing less than total and complete laughingstocks. Laughingstocks, super spreaders. You're not going to want to miss this. You're going to love it. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.